Hello, everyone. Welcome to Global Express. I'm Neena Gopal. This is the new Indian Express's weekly interaction with experts, where we analyze the impact of developments in our backyard, on our neighborhood, and of course on India. Do click on the new Indian Express website and tweet and follow Global Express. So, if there is one story that's been competing for headlines with Hamas and Israel, it's the dramatic homecoming of Pakistan's three-time former Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, as he ended his self-imposed exile in London. The last time Mr. Nawaz Sharif came home in similar fashion was in October 2007, after he had been put in jail and sent into exile in 1999. His once arch rival turned ally Benazir Bhutto had similarly returned that same month. She survived an assassination attempt, but only for her to be felled 2 months later, very tragically. Nawaz's homecoming this October, thankfully, doesn't have any of the elements of that blood and gore, but it's full of drama and it is historic. Here he was on a chartered flight from Dubai that was named Ummeed-e-Pakistan. Receiving him at Islamabad were officials who ensured he had a pre-arrest bail in place and he wouldn't go to jail. He was flown with all the protocol accorded a leader of his stature to his hometown, Lahore. The mammoth crowds at Minar-e-Pakistan rally were equally mind-boggling. People lined the streets, to the venue, where Nawaz actually delivered a very, very emotional speech. He talked about his personal loss, and interestingly, that he hadn't come back to settle scores, to seek revenge, that he wanted peace with hopes and aspirations, the umeed of the people. Walking us through this today is former Indian High Peace on Nawaz Sharif's homecoming in a recent publication. He's an expert on South Asia. He's the author of 3 books with a great book on Pakistan called The People Next Door. Welcome, Ambassador Raghavan.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's start with you, Ambassador. Most people were very intrigued by Nawaz's statement that he did not have any plans to take revenge against the people who ousted his government. That's a far cry from who he was when you served there as ambassador, when he was ousted by General Pervez Musharraf, and he came back making it very plain that he wanted to settle scores. I remember that deal was brokered by the US Secretary of State, Condi Rice, with Benazir and Nawaz. And General Ashfaq Kiani was the intermediary, the ISI chief. He kept shuttling back and forth. So even after Musharraf was forced out of office, Mr. Sharif didn't back off on Musharraf. Do you think his ouster in 2017, when he left Pakistan on medical grounds in 2019, have anything to do with the fact that the army had no intention of allowing him to attack Musharraf? I mean, he had won the polls very squarely, evenly and squarely and fairly in 2013. But his running battle with the army chiefs is a story of his life, isn't it? I mean, he had 3 army chiefs whose backs he set up. How is it any different now with General Asim Munir? I'm sorry for my very long question.
But it's quite evident that, given Pakistan's history, there are numerous frictions and disagreements between the military and the political class, and in particular between the Chief of Army Staff and the Prime Minister. Now, certainly it is also true that when Mr. Nawaz Sharif was elected as Prime Minister in 2013, the fact that certain cases were being taken up against General Musharraf for his unconstitutional acts, including the coup and so on, that contributed greatly to the misunderstandings and frictions that developed between Mr. Nawaz Sharif and the rest of the military establishment. There were other factors too, but certainly I think most people would agree that one of the contributing factors was about how the government was wanting to prosecute the former president and former Chief of Army Staff. To my mind...
And that was something obviously the military wasn't going to allow.
they were not happy with, because they thought that this was just raking up old scores for no real reason. I think, to my mind, perhaps Mr. Nawaz Sharif has gained from that experience, and he feels there's no point going over old scar tissue again. And what has happened in the past, it's best left alone. Possibly there's
Do you
also
really
a
believe that?
tactical.
You think this is a new
It's
Nawaz
difficult to
Sharif
say.
that
It
we're
may
seeing,
well
a more
just
pragmatic leader?
it's difficult to say. It could well be just a tactical element, because right now his main interest is putting up a good show in the elections when they take place, and making sure that the former Prime Minister Imran Khan suddenly doesn't emerge again as a political competitor. It may well just be tactical. My own gut sense is that all sides of the equation have learned a little bit, at least, from their past experience, and they don't want to necessarily repeat it again.
Really? They don't want history repeating itself.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I think also, there is also a very strong reports that are coming in saying that the present army chief, just like Musharraf was when Jahangir Karamat said that he wanted to be there should be a National Security Council, which was seen as interference, and he was sort of sidelined, and they brought in General Pervez Musharraf. This time too, it was the Sharifs who brought in General Asim Munir. Apparently a day before he was set to step down from office, so something to that effect. So, I mean, is Nawaz Sharif working to a new playbook, or I mean, even in exile in London, when these huge rallies, the Pakistan Democratic Movement rallies were happening against Imran Khan, he did say "Vote ko izzat do," which was basically a sideswipe at the army. So, do you think that's what's changed? That's what's behind this sort of pact, because Asim Munir is his man, and who knows whether it could all blow up in his face.
So I think what is very clear is that there is a structural basis to civil military tensions and civil military frictions, which overrides all personal equations and personalities. I mean, that
Hmm.
fact is very clear given Pakistan's history. Uh,
Hmm.
Now, it is also a fact that all sides, all the people concerned, are conscious of that tension, because in the end, this is also a power play, and it is also a contest over scarce resources. So
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
think I don't think whatever happens will lead to a situation where the civil military interface will be totally smooth. It has not happened in the past, and it will not happen in the future. But clearly, right now, the interest of the Pakistan Muslim League, the interest of Mr. Nawaz Sharif, the interest of all the people around him, and the interest of the military higher command seems to converge. And I don't think either of them will want to upset the apple cart too much at this stage.
So do you also think it's because of this personal equation that the Sharifs have with this present general, chief of army staff? Because I mean, once his tenure is ends, they'll have to the whole new game will start again, isn't it? I mean, it's like musical chairs, really, in
I'm
in
not sure
Pakistan.
anyone is looking that far ahead right now.
Hmm.
I don't know about the personal relationships between the Chief of Army Staff and Mr. Nawaz Sharif. But as I said, there are structural factors often at play, and these override the personalities and the personal relationships. There is
So
a
you're
clear
basically
convergence.
saying
There's a
you're basically
convergence of
saying that
interest
Yeah, so you're
right now.
basically saying that things have changed in the sense that both the political class and the army now want to bring some sort of stability vis-a-vis, that equation. They don't want to rupture that.
Well, what I'm saying is that the PMLN leadership and Mr. Nawaz Sharif and the higher command of the military find it in their interest to work together just now. How long that state of affairs will continue is very difficult to say. After all, 2 years ago, nobody, and I repeat, nobody could have imagined that there would be a crack up of the alliance between Imran Khan and the military, and you would have Nawaz Sharif coming back triumphantly. So I don't think it's possible to say what will happen in the future, or that this alliance will last forever. But certainly right now, they seem to be of a mind to work together.
And do you feel just as there's a question mark over the army's meddling in, seems to have also been very compliant, going ahead with, all the charges that were made against Nawaz Sharif and the Al Azizia case and the Panama Papers and, all of that, and now they're talking about how civilians should not be tried in military courts. So is there a question mark about the role that Pakistan judiciary plays as well?
Yeah, these questions are there and they're not going to disappear, because the judiciary has emerged as an autonomous, independent factor, but which often acts also on behalf of the other players. So it's partly autonomous and partly not autonomous, and it's very difficult to know how it will act. But certainly, right now in Pakistan, you have a number of competing, contesting interests. You have the judiciary, you have the media, you have the different political parties, you have the military. But I think the main point right now appears to be that the Pakistan Muslim League and the Pakistan Army have decided to work together, at least for the foreseeable future.
Do you think that, if an election is held, as now the Election Commission of Pakistan is saying that could be at the end of January, it hasn't said so, but this is what the speculation is. How will that be seen as a free and fair election when, just like Nawaz was in jail in 2018, similarly, Imran Khan is now in jail, and he did seem to have grown in popularity, so to speak, at his various rallies and so on and so forth. Do you think that it'll cast a shadow over the is not really free and fair? And yet again, they're superimposing, a political, however popular Nawaz is.
Well, when some politicians are locked up in jail or unable to express themselves freely, there will always be questions whether a major election is free and fair. And those questions certainly exist about the forthcoming election in Pakistan. But the point is that I don't think Imran Khan was an obscure figure when the military picked him up. He had a certain fan following and a certain charismatic position in Pakistan for a long period.
That's true. I agree with that. Yeah.
But the fact is that he was certainly assisted a great deal, his own trajectory to power, because of the tensions between Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and the military. And he was therefore seen as a better option. That part is clear. What will happen now? You see, I think the fact is Pakistan has a huge election. And elections there, while they are smaller in size than elections which take place in India, nevertheless are very, very large administrative and political exercises. No election in Pakistan is over one single issue. It depends. It's not, Imran Khan versus Nawaz Sharif. There will be a host of local, regional, political issues. There's this question of, much like in India, the question of electables. Who controls politics on the ground? And in that, a great deal, therefore, depends on how much freedom different political parties have to activate their presence on the ground and make use of it. My own sense is that the way things are going, the Pakistan Muslim League under Mr. Nawaz Sharif will be the major beneficiary of these elections.
Well,
What that says
at the same time, Ambassador, there was also, I mean, the Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party did actually have a hold in Punjab and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which were quite remarkable. I mean, it's almost as if it displaced the Muslim League, Nawaz.
But many of the local political heavyweights, have since left the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf.
Yes,
The
yes.
overall ecosystem also plays a role. So I would say that I think Mr. Nawaz Sharif will do reasonably well in this election, notwithstanding the inflation and all the other uh, difficulties which the Pakistan Muslim League faces. But what is Mr. Imran Khan's future is a different question altogether. As I said earlier, 2 years ago, none of us could have anticipated that we would even be discussing these questions with Mr. Imran Khan in jail and Mr. Nawaz Sharif triumphantly back in Pakistan. So I don't think we can ever say that Imran Khan has no future, or anyone for that matter has no future. Politics in Pakistan, just like politics everywhere, will throw up its own surprises.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. But his party has been sort of, trifurcated. There are Jahangir Tareen is the head of one, and Shah Mahmood Qureshi is also facing jail in long years in jail. I mean, it doesn't look as if that's going to that Imran Khan's party, the way it was, would actually be able to challenge the PMLN. But what about the PPP? Because there's a lot of I hear that the old alliance, the PDM alliance, which was there, it no longer exists. That the PTI is reaching out to Maulana Fazlur Rahman's JUI. That the PPP has reached out to him as well. I mean, is this an augury for a future alliance, a pre-poll alliance, which shows even the Balochistan Awami Party apparently has been approached by Mr. Zardari.
Well,
so it looks as if there's another alliance brewing.
Pakistan is 240 million people. I don't know the number of voters. In the politics of it is quite complex. There won't be a linear single trajectory, which will explain everything. There will be a lot of cross-cutting, contradictory developments. To my mind, there's the PPP and the PMLN, notwithstanding different points on which they may be contesting each other, maybe in friction with each other, generally don't have a contradictory relationship. So while they will possibly contest the elections, often in constituencies, opposing each other in different constituencies, it doesn't rule out the possibility that they can again come together to form a government after the elections, depending on what the result is. I don't think there's
really,
there's not. It's not as if one single situation is going to explain the whatever is going to happen in the future. There are numerous possibilities.
So you're saying that if the pre-poll alliance is shot to pieces, the post-poll alliance could be very much on the cards.
Well, I'm speaking as an outsider. We have Raza Rumi, who's the real expert. So I think we should ask this.
He has joined.
He's far better equipped to answer it than I am.
Okay, we look at India, Pakistan then, because so much has been said, about Nawaz Sharif's, stint as the former prime minister when when Pakistan tested the nuclear bomb. He brought it up himself at his rally, and he also said that if he hadn't been booted out, he would have made Pakistan an Asian tiger. But the economy is in a shambles. I mean, given the fact that if they hadn't got the IMF loans in, they would have been facing a debt crisis. But at the same time, it sent prices of everyday goods, essentials like food and fuel, sky high, and agriculture, because of that terrible flood, is shot to pieces. So the foreign exchange reserves are also at a very low. So what does, I mean, Nawaz has got a reputation for being a man, who privatized industry. He set up industrial zones. He built that motorway. He now says he wants to make Pakistan an IT hub. Do you think that Nawaz will then use that as the mode they employ really to reach out to India, and set up a kind of a trade and economic relation, open up to trade and economic relations with India, despite all the.
Well, you see, Pakistan's economic problems are, very severe, and it is not as if any simple, any limited set of policy options can suddenly, address those economic issues. It will take a long time, and it will require a very sustained effort.
But isn't that the reason? Don't you think that is the reason that Nawaz has been sort of chosen over Shehbaz to lead the campaign? Because I mean, he has a history, the so-called man of steel, that he can.
I think he's chosen to lead the campaign because he's very evidently the head of the party, and I don't think it's because of economics so much. This is politics, but certainly whoever becomes prime minister and whoever forms the government, they have to address the economy. With Nawaz Sharif, one thing is very clear, and I think his past record on India speaks for itself. Essentially, he has aligned his politics with his personal belief that it is in Pakistan's interest to stabilize relations with India. I don't think he's sentimental or excessively nostalgic about it, as some people believe. I think he just sees it as
he's a pragmatic.
Pakistan's
interest. He's very pragmatic.
It's a pragmatic approach, and there will be, to my mind, many people in India, if the pieces all fall in place at the right time, who also would agree with that approach.
So you don't think Kashmir could be a stumbling block?
A stronger economic partnership with India is going to solve Pakistan's economic problems. It may play some role, but it will not be a very large role. Because
what do you think the path should
be addressed by them, both by a complex of both domestic policy issues and also external policy issues, in which trade with India may be one factor, but I don't think we should give it an exaggerated importance as some people do, that suddenly opening up trade will not solve Pakistan's economic problems. I think that is unrealistic. But yes, trade will be a good confidence building measure. It will stabilize the situation. And it is certainly both in India's interest and in Pakistan's interest that we try to, if not have a perfect good neighborly relationship, at least have a minimally stable relationship.
Ambassador, in the last couple of days, there's been tension again on the Kashmir border. There's been firing, infiltration, and so on and so forth. And will Kashmir be a stumbling block? Because I know Nawaz Sharif, I remember that statement that he made when he met Inder Singh Gujral, our Prime Minister then in the Maldives for the very first time. He said something in Punjabi, which I don't remember, but he basically said, let's put Kashmir on ice. It'll always be there, but let's look at better relations with India. And he said this even before he met Atal Bihari Vajpayee in Colombo, before Lahore happened, So, I mean, what happens to, that's one issue which I was looking at. The other one, of course, is the fact that he's the one who also started the opened the talks and brought in the Belt and Road Initiative with China. So China is the other, elephant in the room.
I don't think it's an elephant in the room. I think, we live in a world which is dominated by geopolitics, but geopolitics does not take away agency of countries. Regardless of what happens between India and China, or what happens between Pakistan and China, there is a certain compelling logic to India and Pakistan stabilizing their relations to a greater extent.
Do you see that happening?
Well, it happens in fits and starts. After all, perhaps there have been one or two incidents on the line of control, but since the reaffirmation of the ceasefire, things are by and large been better than they were before. It's a good development.
You don't think
Given
Article 370 has effectively sort of, put Kashmir on ice, and it will not become an issue?
See, the fact that India and Pakistan have different views on Kashmir and have radically different interpretations of the situation over there is not new. And in the end, one should we have to take a broader and longer term view. Disputes between neighbors is not something which is unique to India and Pakistan. If you look around the world today, there are numerous disputes and they're not going to be easily resolved. The point is that if it is in the interest of both countries to stabilize their relationship, because they have numerous other challenges to address, then policy will be oriented towards some kind of stabilization. To my mind, given what has happened in the last 5 or 6 years and the fact that India and Pakistan have a relationship which goes through ups and downs, I would think that the trend now after elections in both countries would be towards a greater measure of stabilization.
Yeah, also because when Zardari was president, I mean, he did send, he did make many overtures to India. I mean, as did Nawaz Sharif, of course, is legendary, the Lahore summit and so on. But even when our Prime Minister Modi went on that surprise visit to Nawaz Sharif's granddaughter's wedding, you were there. What was it like? I mean, did you see that there was a personal chemistry between the two?
Well, I think there was some chemistry, true, but more than the chemistry, I think what was very clear was that both these prime ministers saw it as being in their interest, not just in their narrow political interest, but in the interest of the country, of their country, to improve the relationship. And they were prepared to put their personal political capital behind it. It was a good opportunity, but the history of India and Pakistan also is a history of missed opportunities. So
yes, absolutely.
It's a pity nothing came out of that, but it was a good opportunity, and I'm sure there will be other opportunities in the future.
So there's also a conspiracy theory that Nawaz has been brought back, with the active encouragement of the US and the UK. Project London is what Imran Khan has been calling it. Not, and of course everyone else calls it Project Nawaz. So is it possible also that that there's a grooming of or sort of a bringing Nawaz back because they want him to be the sort of bulwark, shall we say, against not China a little bit? And there's worry that Afghanistan, where China's got a very big role to play now, and in Iran, could sort of spill over the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and the Tehreek-e-Labbaik and all of these various groups which have just come out of nowhere. Do you feel that, that there's more to Nawaz's homecoming than we see?
Well, I'm aware of these conspiracy theories and, these deep
because Pakistan has always cashed in on its geostrategic location.
I don't give them too much weight. I don't think there is a hidden hand, working behind the scenes, which is manipulating events in a particular direction. I think life is too complicated for such simple.
We're just trying to make it more complicated. Yeah, I agree. But Pakistan has always used its geostrategic location to its advantage in the past. I mean, it was vital when Russia was, was part of the game, and it's not Russia, the USSR. And now that Russia also has become, has seemed to be making overtures to Imran Khan, which of course fell by the wayside. Do you see a kind of a, a sort of Cold War replay, so to speak, in the region?
Well, there is a certain larger geopolitical flux because of the deterioration in US-China relations, the strengthening of Russia-China and the war in Ukraine. And so those factors are there. But I don't think we should expect that the global geopolitics will explain every aspect of our regional situation. I think the regional situation has its own autonomy and its own importance. And essentially, regardless of what happens externally, India has to address issues pertaining to its own neighbor. It can't,
So should India reach out to the whoever wins the election in Pakistan, or should we wait for the should there be some kind of reach out now? And the other interesting aspect to this whole thing is the involvement of Saudi Arabia and the UAE in supporting Nawaz Sharif in the way it is, because that's the other conspiracy theory, Ambassador, saying that Pakistan is going to transfer its nuke technology to Saudi Arabia, which of course is just fiction, but it's another story doing the rounds. But my main question is, should India also make an effort?
No, certainly we should. It's not rocket science that if you have better relations in your neighborhood, it's good for you, it's good for your economy, and it's something which the foreign policy of any country has to be directed towards. It's a no-brainer. If we can achieve better relations with Pakistan, if we can stabilize the situation, if we can make sure that there are going to be lesser chances of unexpected crises coming up and biting us at the back, it's certainly something we should try for.
But we did have a very uncomfortable, sort of not very pleasant visit by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari when he arrived in Goa.
Yes, because with neighbors, relations will always be subject to all kinds of ups and downs. And, there are enormous issues involved in neighborhood relations. But the fact is that the bigger picture has to be that you don't want relations to deteriorate beyond the point. Because, if you look at what has happened in Europe, there are different ways of seeing what has happened between Russia and Ukraine. Whether it's NATO expansion, Russia pushing back. But to my mind, the simplest explanation is that these are two important neighboring countries which could not manage their bilateral relationship better. And certainly one direction where we don't want to go is the direction in which Ukraine and Russia have ended up. So to my mind, whatever we can do to stabilize the relationship with Pakistan, and it's not easy, there are many challenges, but as a policy objective, that should always be there.
Do we have a card to play? Any particular card that we can play?
So there are always many cards to play, because in the end, there are so many things which can be done, and but
include them in IMAC.
I don't think. Again, as I said, you have a huge agenda which you can attend to bilaterally. You don't have to look around for, trying to fit into the wider geopolitics. Your bilateral agenda is rich enough and fruitful enough, but it's not easy. And we have to be cognizant of how badly things can go wrong, as they have in the past.
Just tell us what you feel should be the path ahead.
The path ahead for Pakistan looks very, very difficult. I think frankly, the bandwidth required to address the difficult economic issues which exist, that bandwidth doesn't seem to be there. And the fact that the country is going into elections is, of course, a good thing, but it's a double-edged sword. Because at a time when there needed to be a very strong focus on economic policy, that focus is not going to come. And elections sometimes solve problems. Often elections don't solve problems, but create new problems. So I see a very, very difficult 6 months to a year ahead for Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It was really very illuminating. Please click on the Global Express button and watch the program on the new Indian Express website. Thank you.